we go. All right, call to order this regular meeting of the Page County School Board.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Bugler.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes.
Ms. Wright.
Please pause for a moment of silence as we prepare for the meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Fox, do you have any agenda changes or additions?
No, not this evening.
We have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Painter and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to approve the agenda as presented.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Bugler.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we certify that all personnel matters discussed in closed section in the closed meeting was the section 2.2-3711A1.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Mr. Painter to certify matters discussed in closed session.
Mr. Bugler.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes. We have no one in person for citizen comment. We had one written. Can I have a motion to approve the June minutes?
Make a motion that we approve the June minutes.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mr. Painter to approve the June minutes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Bugler.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as given.
Second.
A motion by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Dr. Painter to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Bugler.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Yes. Dr. Johnson, VSBA policy updates?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, members of the school board. As you know, at the last meeting, we began to really audit, if you will, our policy manual, and tonight we bring you several more policy updates. Perhaps the explanation document might be the best one to view, and I'll just give you a brief summary of each one. And we just, tonight, informational, and then we'll bring these back in the next board meeting for approval. But the non-discrimination policy AC was updated with a legal reference, basically just at the bottom of the document. And the substance of that legal reference is to include the governor's schools specifically when they get into non-discrimination discussions and non-discrimination processes. So minor changes there. Policy CLA, reporting acts of violence and substance abuse. Again, that's in relation to Virginia Code and some changes there. But it's very clear now in this policy version that the report of acts of violence and substance abuse go directly to the principal and the superintendent. And then this policy also is very specific in that it lists mandatory incidents in which reporting has to occur, so that you can go down and see the incident types spelled out in that policy. Policy EB, School Crisis Emergency Management and Medical Emergency Response Plan. That has not changed significantly. It does specifically now include the superintendent's designee as a point of contact for that. Threat assessments, policy EBB, in this, it's very clear that all schools must designate their threat assessment team. We've been doing that for a number of years here in Page County, but it is clearly stated in the policy now the need to designate by school. Revision IE, the moment of silence, the big difference there now is a single word, really. Instead of the word moment, it now says minute. So it says 1 minute of silence. So that will be a change in our meetings and in our startup each morning of school, that our leaders are going to have to pay attention to the time of that. JHCB, student immunizations, there are minor edits there as well, which are just basically literary or verb tenses, that kind of thing. Policy JHCE, recommendation of medication by school personnel. And the language here is that whenever school personnel make a recommendation for medication, the parent has to be involved and has to give permission before that can occur. So, that might occur with a school nurse in conjunction with a professional, but it's not very often that staff are making recommendations on medication. But the policy clearly says that you better not engage in anything such as that without the parent involved and given permission. Policy KBA, request for information. Again, that particular one was just minor edits, verb tenses and so on. But the next one, KBA-R, request for information, really got into, it's dealing with FOIA. And it gets into, it specifically identifies who our FOIA offices are in Page County so that the public can clearly find that. It outlines the FOIA process very clearly as well. And then the last one, relations with law enforcement authorities, policy KNAJ. This has got a couple of sections to it. Mainly, it's talking about that when law enforcement come into the schools, if they want to interview a student, first and foremost, we, the school division, must make a reasonable effort to contact the parent. Whenever the police come, if there's a request for an interview. It also is very, very specific to the process. If law enforcement are trying to conduct an investigation in conjunction with the school as part of maybe a student, it really spells out for administrators and those involved what needs to happen, what order it needs to happen, and so on. So it's very clear.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, just a question on that relation with law enforcement. So there have been times in the past that we brought a dog in to sniff for drugs, I assume. Is that covered in that policy or in that?
That's not specifically, but in that example, for instance, we historically have welcomed law enforcement as a preventative measure to come in and say, bring a drug dog in. And that historically has been really having good relations with law enforcement has served us well, because that's a very discreet, confidential activity that typically only the principal is notified before that happens. I know in my time as a principal, maybe the assistant principal knew as well, and that was it. And that was so that you could at least coordinate, having folks stay in their room. And so it's not mentioned specifically. This is more about investigation, interrogation of students, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will confirm for you, but I believe in our handbook and our code of conduct, it references that under searches.
Okay.
So there's a section there where parents are informed that that's part of our practice, but I'll confirm it.
So
And I'm
generally,
looking at
the law enforcement comes to the principal and asks.
Well, the example you use?
Yes.
Yeah, they do. They have to schedule that and set that up and get approval to do so. Yeah.
So we never reach out to them and say,
Yeah. I won't say that, if there has been sort of a rash of problems, if students have been arrested in the community, or that there's a problem, I would not say, though, that maybe an SRO and a principal wouldn't talk about. This would maybe really be a good wake-up call, a good reminder that we're paying attention as administrators. So I would think, I know in my own experience. It's certainly those kind of conversations might happen, but historically, you don't always know the availability of a dog, and is there an active one in the county? Sometimes there is, sometimes there haven't been. So, yeah, but that comes down to the relationship as well. Yeah.
I would venture to say the partnership that we have right now, if we were to call and say we think we're having an issue, and we would ask them, they would do everything in their power. It's also based on when the dogs are available and how many they have that can be in service at a particular time. They can only do certain amount of searching for either in a period of time or for a day, and in terms of how big the building is or something like that.
But specific to your original question, I gave me a chance to just take a quick glance at this actual policy, and there is not discussion about dogs coming in and that kind of thing in the policy.
Any other questions?
I just think that would be a good option if we ever needed it. So it's not handled in that policy. It's got to be in the handbook.
Yeah, it is in here, and it's under the search and seizure section. And it does say the school may allow canine detection initiatives for contraband.
Okay.
And that's referencing back to, yeah, and it says at any time on school property. So it references back to school board policy JFG.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Dr. Fox, new policy GAC.
Yes, so good evening. I'm going to present to you for first read this evening, 3 new policies that just help to clarify some things for us in terms of our expectations that we have for our staff and our students as we move forward. So the first one is digital communications. Part of this policy was previously in our policy called GAB-IIBEC. What we're going to do tonight, and when we bring it back to you at the next meeting, is we're going to remove that, retire that policy, and then add this one in as the new policy. So GAC would come in as the new policy. And basically, this just outlines and defines for us what digital communications are, our expectations for professional and personal use for staff. And digital communications can include anything that we, as a division, have decided is our official form of communication, but it also references personal use of things like social media accounts. And it just lists in terms of some of the expectations that we expect for employees as they engage using digital communication. So new policy in terms of it's a much more expanded view of the previous one, and it also clearly articulates some expectations for staff. So any questions about that one?
I looked through it, but I couldn't find it. Is there anything on there about posting the social media during your working hours?
Yeah, if you look on the 3rd page where it says personal use guidelines, the first section there that has the bullets, the first one is personal use must not interfere with job duties or otherwise be disruptive to the school environment or its operations. So that would be the policy reference that we could use if that were.
I don't think they'd read it that way.
No.
Yeah, you could be on a break and do it, right? That's what it kind of makes it open.
I mean, we've had that can of worms before where something got posted during the school day and then it kind of blew up in our face.
It might be under also, if we look at the, not that one, the 3rd one that we're going to talk about for staff responsibilities and
Okay.
staff conduct. There's probably something in there that we could use to reference that. Do you want to see something specific about that?
Well, when you get to the other one, that one mentions outside of working hours.
The 3rd one,
Yeah.
the 3rd policy.
Yeah.
We have to be careful with,
I know, but if you're supposed to be teaching or something, but you're sharing memes,
True.
I mean, the impression is if it's 10 o'clock in the morning, you're not on your lunch break. And I would hope you're using your planning for planning. I mean, it's just a lot of times it's about perception, especially when people are trying to pick at something anyway.
We can go back and look and maybe perhaps tease out something that's a little bit more explicit in terms of that, and then send you an updated version of that for next time. Will that work?
I just didn't know if I'd overlooked.
No, and again, and the other piece too is if we're going to add this in as a new policy, we can always then add in any regulations. So anything else that we might want to add that maybe goes into more detail about something, we could add a regulation that we attach to it as well. Okay, so that's the first one. Any other questions on that? The second one is specific, very specific in terms of maintaining professional staff and student boundaries. And so this is just, I think this is both protection for students and for staff. And what this one does is sort of outline what the expectations are and sort of how we engage in our in-school and out-of-school behavior with students and parents, and what our expectations are for the staff. It does clearly articulate some examples. It's not an all-inclusive list, but some examples of unacceptable conduct, giving the appearances of impropriety. It does talk a little bit about electronic communications there. And then it reminds us about our obligation as mandatory reporters and what we would do in terms of an investigation, or if we did find that there was a situation where there might have been some impropriety. It outlines what we would do in those situations.
It seems to be written mostly for sexual misconduct. Is that your feel?
Yeah, I think it addresses that, but I do think it also, that's typically where you're going to see those boundaries crossed. I think it does put some things in here, more gender or more gentle things like talking about jokes or innuendos or how you use sarcasm, not necessarily always about the sexual references, but in most cases, that's what it's about. But it also talks here about like hosting students in your home, or taking students home in your car, things like that. If you're a male teacher, about not necessarily having a one-on-one conversation with a student in your classroom with the door shut. Those protections work both ways for the student and the teacher. So things like that. But yes, mostly for those boundaries, just to make sure. But we didn't have anything very, very specific in our policy about this. So this just gives us more specific things.
It definitely references students and teachers. Now, what about admin and teachers?
I think whenever
That
you see the
balance.
word teacher, you can imply that that's any staff member.
Okay.
And I think it defines that.
Somewhere, some places it calls it staff member.
Yeah. The implication would be it's for any staff member.
It says for the purpose of this policy, a staff member is all Page County School Board employees. And then list all of them.
Okay, and then the last one is staff responsibilities, conduct, and dress code. And again, I think this just outlines our expectations as a division for some of our staff, or all of our staff, actually. I think it has the same definition in here about what staff member means. But again, just very specific in terms of these are the things that are acceptable, these are the things that are not. It's pretty clear if you're an employee what the expectations are in terms of we look to you to be a role model. And again, it gives an example list of misconduct, and not all inclusive, but it gives examples of things. And I'll say this will help us when we're dealing with some of the human resource issues that we deal with. We never really have a policy that we could refer back to specifically. This gives us a very specific policy to reference back to.
I think the one thing on there might cause some heartburn if administrators don't follow it once it's approved, because it's different everywhere, is about the bringing your kids to work during work hours.
But I think it is explicit about if we need to, we can expand that a little bit more, but
No, I think that makes sense. My point is that it's enforced so that it's fair. Like just no exceptions. I mean,
so if you want to take a closer look at them, you have questions or concerns, let me know. We'll bring these back to you in 2 weeks for formal approval, and then we'll add them the next day to it.
I just thought of something. What about the people whose kids go to school there and they're just waiting to go to class, or they just got out of class at the end of the day? Or, I mean, to me, part of that's common sense, but you know, some people are like, nope, it says you better send them on a bus somewhere.
We can talk about it and see if there's a way that we can maybe give it a little caveat that covers that before and after in terms of because their contract time really is only 15 before and 15 after, 15 minutes before and 15 after. So by the time the kid, well, that's true. There's no double runs. But if their student is, going to their locker and getting their books and clearing out, getting their lunchbox or something, by the time they do that, they're back. Or they're supervised in the gym with all the other students until their parents finished with their
Yeah, I
job
just know with
responsibilities.
these back to school days coming up.
Yeah.
That might be.
We can look at it and see if we can come up with something that's a little clearer for everybody. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Johnson, Human Resources and Business Operations update.
Yes, ma'am. We just thought it would be good tonight just to spend a couple of minutes and give you a few updates. Mr. Bell and I in our department have been hard at it, and one or two of these things you will be aware of. We thought it would be nice for the public to hear as well. And a few of these you may not be aware of at this point. And so just some updates. In human resources, we have secured some pretty fruitful grants over the last couple of weeks. The one that we're very pleased about, the first one listed there, Recruitment and Retention Support Grant, or RARS grant. We wrote that just a couple of weeks ago with the opportunity to win $30,000 if we were successful. And it was written specifically to our Grow Your Own teacher plan that we introduced a few months ago. And so we have received $30,000, which will allow us to provide tuition reimbursement to the folks pursuing these pre-K-6 licenses, as well as the special ed licenses. And so that's such a big need for us. And actually it ties in really well. If you could just scroll down a little bit with the new teacher update. We still have 6 vacancies. We're just a couple of weeks here before we open. 3 of those 6 are elementary positions, and one of them's a special ed position. So even as we're getting down to the end here, it's evident that those are the biggest or greatest need. So to be able to say to our teacher assistants and our employees who are trying to take some classes and gain licenses, we're going to be able to help you with the tuition reimbursement is really, really a big win for us. We're thrilled to get that grant. The second grant that we are aware of that we've got is the Vista Grant, and you will recall this from last year as well, but we have up to $132,000 that we're able to spend for this year to employ a COVID-19 nurse and a COVID-19 liaison. So we'd love to be out from under the topic of COVID, but we're not, and we're going to get these posted and pursue a couple of employees to assist in process, knowledge, understanding, tracking, all that goes into the pandemic still. The DCJS mapping project, you've heard lots about that, and that was a $31,500 grant that we got, and that's well underway. Blueprints and maps are in the hands of the company, and those we hope to be seeing sooner than later. And then just today, Mr. Williams and I submitted the School Safety and Security Grant for this upcoming year. And just so you're aware, the direction we went on that was when we went through the principal building checklists, part of the safety plan this summer, over and over and over again, we heard that we still got some work to do on some locations and placements of cameras. So we want to try and add to our overall quantities, add some DVRs, and really, we've got good footage and good coverage, but we want great footage and great coverage. And so that's what we're going after this year. And then we're already beginning to look at next year as we look at some of the categories that are going to take a lot more planning and homework. Things like outside audio video cameras to communicate with the public before they come in, or more automated locks such as the two high schools have with swipe cards. That's going to take a lot more legwork. So that's probably the direction we'll go for next year. But it's been a good couple of weeks in regards to the state supporting us in grant money.
So from your prior time in HR, is 44 a high number?
This is the most I've ever seen.
Okay.
Yeah, I was HR for 8 years before this stint, and we never started with this many. And when we get the 6 more, that's 50 new people. Now, keep in mind, that's not all 50. We didn't lose 50 people because we've had some movement, some transfers. But this is the most, that I've seen. We used to run 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when I was tracking this, we were staying 8 to 10%. And the Valley, we were really proud because the Valley was typically 13 to 14%, but we're all much higher than that now.
I would venture to say if you ask that same question to pretty much every school division, they would say the same thing, that they're way higher than they've ever been.
I was in conversation with Rockingham HR about 2 hours ago, and they're still, same thing, they got vacancies, they're hiring, people are moving.
General County.
Yep.
The Vista Grant, that 132 salary and benefits,
Covers
right?
everything.
Because I can just see that now. They're going to pay two $65,000 positions, and
They will be comparable to current positions, i.e. a nurse's position will be a nurse's position salary, and then, but that covers the benefits that we have to spend on insurance. and so
Would that be a registered nurse certification?
yeah, because people just see that number.
Yeah, good point.
Like all the time, like when the Page Valley News things, when they post something, it looks like it's this real big number, but benefits is more than you think.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good work.
Ms. Ryman, instructional update?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, board members. I don't have very much for you since we got to spend such good quality time all together on Tuesday, so I just wanted to reiterate a couple of points. I put that quote in there about Henry Ford, and I really liked it, and I totally forgot to reference it, but Dr. Fox jumped in there on Tuesday. But I put that on here again in order to highlight the things that I want to reiterate this evening. Are that we're very excited, and we all feel like we're at a place where we're really moving forward together, and we're really looking forward to starting a new school year and working closely, central office, with our schools and helping to guide instruction and move things forward. The top bullet, though, is a little update. This is not unusual for this time of year, but the VDOE did release a new updated timeline for data release. Remember the other day we were briefly talking about when some of those things would come out. I don't anticipate that changing what I had mentioned to you on Tuesday at this point, but if it would change, we'll keep you updated. And then, so yeah, again, in terms of moving forward, we're going to have ongoing PD at the school level, instructional best practices. We've spent a lot of time with interpreting data and working through that process together to make really strategic instructional decisions. Central office staff and principals are really looking forward to getting in and walking around, doing walkthroughs together, being very present in our schools. And then we'll just continue to keep our communication streamlined and keep that moving in a positive direction so that teachers, principals, everyone's very well aware of instructional updates, assessments, and sharing our successes, because that's certainly very important. And we talked about that some the other day as well, that we need that. That's good. It's motivating for everybody. And sometimes we don't get enough of that. So, and then we're very excited about the mentor program for new staff. Like as Dr. Johnson just shared, we've got a lot of people that are going to need a lot of support. And that's a good thing. We give that to them so that maybe next year we're sitting here and we're not having as many. He and Mr. Bell aren't quite as busy as they are right now. So with that, yeah, that's our instructional update. Do you have any questions?
So as far as the admin in the buildings, we had a lot of those as well.
Correct. Yeah, so
New
we're going to be,
positions, you're probably at least 40% or more, maybe?
we're going to be giving them support as well.
Okay. All right. So there's a detailed plan for a mentor program.
Yes.
That was
Okay.
my question. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ms. Pettit and Mr. Pitts are leading that charge with Dr. Johnson's support.
Okay. Good.
Thank you. Dr. Fox, Superintendent's update.
Yes, thank you. So this evening, just a couple of different things for you. One, again, we wish it was gone, but it's not, and it's rearing its head a little bit, is a COVID update for you. And I know this may be a little bit harder for you to see, but I wanted you to see the difference between the two maps. The one on the left-hand side is from 2 weeks ago, and you'll see more green. And unfortunately, what you're seeing on the right-hand side is the most recent CDC for our counties and for Virginia, and you're seeing more of the red and the yellow. So we're starting to see that uptick of that variant being more pervasive. Right now, we are fortunately still in green. Page County is in green, but we are certainly keeping our eye on that, and we'll continue to keep you updated on where we are. But just a quick update on what we're looking like regionally and across the state. Want to give a shout out tonight, and we're going to bring this back to you at another board meeting because we want to invite some people to come. But I had the privilege last week of going to Richmond and accepting this award for the school division. But our porch visit program was honored by the Virginia School Boards Association for their Food for Thought competition. And we were one of 6 school divisions across the state that were recognized for this program. So a wonderful thing for the school division. And the program itself, the competition, is designed to educate, engage, and empower school leaders to address childhood hunger and provide for all students more healthier and more nutritious meals. Our Porch Visit program is a partnership with the Page Alliance for Community Action and the Healthy Families of Page County. Utilizes grant funding through Share Our Strength to provide food supplies and a variety of other resources to families in need. Since its inception here in January of 2021, we've served over 80 families, provided over 13,000 meals, and over 2,500 boxes of food have been donated from organizations such as Page One and the Blue Ridge Food Bank. Our porch visitors make weekly visits to families, and in addition to providing food, they also assist helping families acquire necessary resources and help them with things like if they need to get access to Wi-Fi, they help them find those resources. If they need help filing their taxes, if they need diapers, or they need help tutoring their students, or engaging with the school system about a problem or a concern, and then connecting them with other community resources who might help, say, pay the rent or pay their utility bills if they're behind. Recently, a video was created highlighting some of our staff, and that was through the No Kid Hungry program. So our school division in that program was highlighted there. This presentation, which is attached to the board agenda, has the link for the video. I would encourage everybody to take a few minutes and watch it. It's very, very powerful, and it certainly gives you a feeling of how much this program means to some of our families. And then, again, I've said we will recognize more formally for you all and formally present the plaque. But we certainly want to congratulate and thank Ms. Jenny Jeffries, our Nutritional Services Supervisor, Ms. Megan Gordon, the PACA Executive Director, and our School Board Chair on this award, and want to thank them for their work that they do with our families and students. So this was pushed out today on our media. VSBA has pushed it out, and I believe the Page Valley News has also picked it up. So kudos to all of them, and we want to celebrate the good. There's a lot of really good things happening in this division.
I didn't even know we were doing it till I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah, it's a great program. So again, we'll bring that back to you, and you'll hopefully get to meet some of the folks who are doing the visits, some of our community partners, and even some of the families that are participating. Last week, we pushed out a survey to our parents and guardians on a variety of topics, asking them for feedback on things like school safety, student conduct, and communications. It is an anonymous survey. It is open through tomorrow, and we may let it run a little bit longer just to get more feedback. At this point in time, earlier this morning, we'd received 387 responses. We'd like more. That's a good turnout, but we'd like more. So again, this is attached to the agenda. The link is there. It's also on all of our web pages. So just a reminder to anybody who might be listening, if they haven't had the opportunity, we would appreciate their feedback. And we'll bring you information and give you an update on what was shared there. Power School Parent Portal. We've mentioned this a couple of times about where we're headed with this, but again, we wanted to push this out publicly because our big push to parents will start next week. But the Parent Portal is a feature in Power School, which is our student information management system that provides immediate access to information to parents. So things like grades, all of our division forms that used to be in that paper packet, again, have now been combined into our student handbook and code of conduct. All of those forms will be signed this year by parents through the Parent Portal. They can also access attendance information, they can update their contact information, and we're also going to electronically push out report cards this year. Parents that want a paper copy will still be able to get a paper copy, but we're going to push out report cards electronically. So what that means is we need parents to sign up. They have to sign up, they have to access and activate their Parent Portal account. So we're going to be pushing out information in the next week or so to those parents who have not activated an account. They'll get a letter about what it is, why they need to sign up, and then they'll get their personal student information, because it is obviously student specific. So we just want you guys to be aware. You'll start seeing those pushes for that at the orientations that we have. We'll have computers and staff available to assist parents in signing up if they need help. Parents can link, if they have multiple children in the division, they can link it to one Parent Portal account, and they'll be able to access all of their students there. So just an important feature, and this is, again, a partnership. We need parents to be on this system. It's going to help us expedite some of our functions and cut back on paper. They won't have to sign a zillion forms. They may have to just click a couple of buttons now. So we just wanted to give you all an update on that and let you know that that communication will start going out next week. And then the last slide, I've shown you this before, but again, we're getting closer and closer to that time. Our new teacher orientation is on the 8th and 9th, which is hard to believe that that's in less than 2 weeks, that we'll welcome those 44, hopefully it's 50 people to the table and do all of our fun things with them. And then all of our teachers come back on the 10th.
And where
again,
will the new orientation be for the new teacher?
It's going to be at Luray High School, which goes 2 days. And then again, invite you all to the convocation on the 12th. And then students come back to us on the 22nd. So we're almost there. So that's my update for you all this evening. Any questions that I can answer for you?
Do you know in 1999, the teacher orientation here was at the Days Inn? Stops there.
Did you get that?
Is the convocation at Luray High School too?
No, convocation is at Page.
Pages here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Dr. Fox, Student Handbook and Code of Conduct.
Yeah, so tonight we're bringing this back to you for approval. We brought it to you a couple weeks ago, talked you through some of the changes and the updates to our handbook and code of conduct. So tonight we're asking you for approval as it's shown. I will say to you, we're going to bring back a couple of little tweaks to it on the 14th. We're meeting on Monday and Tuesday with all of our administrators and central office staff for our School Leadership Academy. And there's a couple little pieces, dress code, some of the parent communication, some of the leveled responses that we need to have a couple more conversations about. So what I'm asking you tonight is to approve it as is. That way we can get it published and out, and then we'll bring it back, a couple little changes for you on the 14th, and ask you to just approve those changes. But it is an online version, so that's our active online. We can make changes in real time. And if we make changes, we'll make sure we communicate those. So tonight I would ask for your approval of the 2022-23 Student Handbook and Code of Conduct.
I make a motion that we approve the 22-23 Student Handbook and Code of Conduct.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to approve the 2022-2023 Student Handbook and Code of Conduct.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you all very much.
Ms. Secrets, claims for payment.
Yes, good evening, board. You all have been provided with the claims for payment. where the total operating fund is $414,908.44. Food service fund, $12,765.56 for total expenditures of $427,674. Along with that, you've been provided with the list of claims as well as the check registers. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
I have a motion to approve.
Make a motion, we approve the claims for payment as presented.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mr. Gubler to approve the claims for payment as presented.
Dr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Gubler?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. Thank you. Let's see if there's purchase orders over 10,000.
Yes, Board, we have these 3 purchase orders for your approval tonight, as well as one that is not on the list. The 3 that are listed are all special education services locally funded for things like hard of hearing services, psych services, and then also our deposit for fall tuition to the Shenandoah Valley Regional Program. The one that is not listed, and I do have, if you all would like to see, is for floor replacement at Stanley Elementary School for room 107 in the hall. It is for $33,070. Mr. Williams did collect all of the quotes and bids necessary and make contact with companies that are needed because of the price of this. So we would ask that you all approve the 3 as well as the other one this evening.
Ally Health and the Presence Learning, is that for the entire year, since this is not to exceed sped purchase services?
So it is hopeful that that would be for the entire year. And if we were to exceed, then.
But
we
they
would have
pay
to-
up front. Is that kind of,
We pay invoices to this.
this is just approving it in advance?
Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha.
I'll make a motion that we approve the invoices for over $10,000, including the 4th presented tonight.
Second.
A motion by Mrs. Sullivan Smith, a second by Mr. Gubler to approve the purchase orders over 10,000 to include the additional one.
Mr. Gubler?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Johnson, approval of policy updates?
Yes, so 2 weeks ago, as mentioned, we began to audit a set of policies, and tonight we come back with those same policies asking for your approval.
I make a motion that we approve the policy updates from July.
Second?
A motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to approve the policy updates from July.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Dr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Gubler?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. Dr. Fox, policy BBBB.
Yeah, it's an easy one to say. This is also just bringing back to you for the second time to add a student representative to the school board. So we're asking your approval for that tonight, and if approved, we will begin our push out of information to our juniors and seniors at both of our high schools.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the new policy BBBB, which is in connection with a student representative to the school board.
Second.
A motion by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot, a second by Mr. Gubler to approve policy BBBB, student representative to the school board.
Dr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Gubler?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Board member discussion?
Well, I would just like to congratulate the girls softball team in Shenandoah. They're not going on to the final World Series, but they ended up being the champion of the, I don't know all the titles, but it's a
Babe
little-
Ruth World Series Diamond Bracket
Diamond
champs.
bracket, that's what it was. And the Shenandoah boys will be in Maine next week playing, and if they go there, then they'll end up in Pennsylvania for the real World Series. I can't say enough about not just the students who have, or young people who have committed themselves to these teams, but to the parents for their support and sacrifices to get all this incorporated into a schedule, and then to the coaches. So congratulations to all of you, and your commitment and hard work has paid off in more ways than one. That'll carry you for a lifetime. So can't say enough.
So I'd like to give a shout out to those who put on the Luray Boosters Golf Tournament yesterday. That was a good time, a lot of people there, so hopefully they raised some money. Also, we had a meeting, just so everybody knows, meeting with the school board and leaders within the administration this week, and I think that meeting went real well. And Dr. Fox will give you kudos for good leadership there, and you had a good team. But I've heard a lot of good comments about you as well, so just a little feedback for you. Yeah, no pressure. And I think today we started football practice, I believe, so at Page at least. I don't know about Luray, so everybody be safe out there.
Well, and just to echo what Mr. Painter said, the meeting on Tuesday was very good. It was nice to have a lot of interaction and discussion. So I think it was a great start to the soon-to-be start of the school year. So thank you.
Thank you all for participating.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to adjourn. Mr. Gamble.
Yes.
Mr. Pettit.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smoot.
Yes.
Yes. Adjourned.